I want to give you a bit of an alternative thought process on football, and I'm going to use the Soccer Mystic and the Sporting Lisbon and Man City match tonight to show what I'm thinking. So at the start of this match you can see the odds are about 184, and let's say that City take the lead at about 30 minutes and so on. You can see here the price would have drifted out, and then boom, the price comes in to about 122. So you could actually say, well, you know what, I'm going to back at 185 and lay at 182 after City have scored. But of course you could have the situation where City don't score first, and then you're on to 100% loss. Unless if City come back into the match. However, if you look at the scenario, City are playing away, and an away goal to them is worth a couple of goals in Europe. But Sporting Lisbon, will be very keen not to concede, and if they do concede, they'll be very keen to get a couple of goals back at this situation. So if we backed at 185 and got out about 120, let's say 125, let's say we don't, there's always going to be a bit of variance between forecast and actual. Let's say that we do that. We back at 185, we trade out at 125. We've made about 60% if City score the first goal. But there's quite a bit of risk, 60% sounds a lot, but there's quite a lot of risk within that scenario anyway. Outsiders score first about 40% of the time, and favourites score about 60% of the time. So you look at that and you sort of think, well, we could do that, but we'd have to mitigate or hedge the risk somehow. So we can flip this the other way around. We can say, well, we don't know who's going to score first, so let's, see what options are open to us after the first goal goes in. So let us assume that Man City score first. The shape of the match will change quite a bit, because if they do score first, Sporting Lisbon have no choice but to attack and try and get a goal, because you would think that they would struggle more to score a goal away than they would at home. So they're going to have a right go. So if we laid Man City at around sort of odds of 125 or thereabouts if they score first, we've got downside of 25%, but our potential upside is 75%. So your thought process changes to saying, well, if Man City score, when are they most likely to score first? What time would they score first, and what does that expose me to in terms of potential profit? So in this scenario, they could go on and score again, of course. But if they do score first, then that's worth 2 goals to them, and they may have a more cautious approach. Looking at teams and understanding the way that their managers expect them to play, it sort of comes into play at this point. So City are at 122. You're expecting Lisbon to come back into this match at some point. So let's give Lisbon a goal after 50 minutes and see sort of what happens to the price on City from there. So what you can see now is that the price is shot right back out, because of course if the match is a draw at 50 minutes as opposed to being a draw at 20 or 25 minutes, it's going to be a much higher price. So if we expose ourselves to risk by laying City at 125 or thereabouts, then if there's an equaliser at 50 minutes, then you can see the odds have shot right up to a much, much bigger price. We're indicating around 250 or abouts from there. So all of a sudden you've got the situation where you've created a lot of upside for not too much downside, and at that point of course the match will be a draw. So let's have a look at the price of the draw and see what the situation is from there. Well, the price of the draw would have come in to 232. So at that point you can start to switch your attention and say, well, let's have a look at the price of the draw. Because if you think about the dynamics of using an exchange, if you can lay 2 selections under 2, then you will make money. So we've laid Man City at 121, and the potential for profit is created now by laying the draw at some point. So there will become a point at which the draw comes in to a reasonable price, or maybe even at the time of the goal, because the goal could come, say, after 70 minutes, where you may choose to lay the draw. Now that may seem funny because you've created a profit on one situation by laying Manchester City, But you can see at this point the draw is below twos as well, and therefore if you lay, you've already laid Man City, and then you lay the draw, then you're guaranteed a profit whatever the result. So sometimes, looking for when that first goal is going to be scored isn't as important as understanding what could happen, or what the incentive for something to happen is later on in the match. And if you can lay 3 things below 3, you will make money. If you can lay 2 things below 2, you will make money. So laying several times throughout the match gives you the opportunity to do that. But obviously that is dependent upon how the match pans out. And it could be that Lisbon score first tonight, or there could be many number of scenarios. But this is how I approach a match: is to have a look at all of the potential scenarios. When goals get scored, then that shifts your focus in terms of what you think the next opportunity within the market is. But if you're looking to lay more than once in a match, then there's a couple of rules of thumb. If you can lay 2 below 2s, then you'll make money. If you can lay 3 outcomes below 3, then you'll make money. And therefore, if you're adopting a strategy like that, matches where somebody takes the lead and then it's a draw and then take the lead again and then it's another draw and then the other team score, all of those scenarios can play out to hugely profitable matches. But it's better that you understand what your options are when those situations occur, which is why I use a modeling tool to get a handle on exactly what the potential scenarios are. And of course you can hedge in the underlying market as well. But I just thought I'd throw that into the mix for you so you can see what my thought process is when I'm looking at a match. I don't look at it purely as saying who's going to score next and therefore I'm going to back them, or I'm going to lay the draw based upon certain scenarios. There's many different scenarios that you can put into play during a competitive football match.